Hello, my name is Arash Nemati and I'm working here in DTU Energy, and today I'm going to talk about cell and stack modeling. So we have different types of the electrolyzer. One of them is alkaline, the other one is PEM, and the last one is solid oxide cell. So what we have about the alkaline, it's the most mature and commercial one. We can scale up it easily, but it has some problems. It has low efficiency and it's limited regarding the load. So we cannot really reduce load, which is an important thing for the renewable energy, as we don't have every time the full renewable energy. So the other one, as I mentioned, it's PEM, proton exchange membrane electrolyzer cells. So they have higher efficiency than alkaline cells. However, they're using expensive materials and rare materials such as platinum and iridium, which is make it hard to scale up. The last one is solid oxide electrolyzer cells, SOEC we call it. They have very high efficiency, but they also have some challenges regarding the scaling up. Today, I'm going to talk about this solid oxide electrolyzer cell because it's really hard to cover all of the technologies. But why modeling? So, first of all, it is much faster than the doing experiments. For example, you can simulate a lifetime of the cell in 1 minute. So you can simulate 5 years of the operation of the cell only in 1 minute. The second reason is that it can provide further information. For example, in here you can see how the species changes alongside the cell, which is really hard to measure it and understand it by doing the measurements. Another reason is much cheaper than the experiments. For example, in here you can see some test facilities that we have in DTU Energy. We need different gases, thermocouples, heaters, a lot of facilities to do the measurements. And it's even more expensive for doing this kind of tests for the stacks, which are larger scale. So by doing simulation, you can make it much cheaper. And not everything is measurable, so you cannot really measure variation of the species alongside the cell, how they vary oxygen, hydrogen, steam, and other species. And you can try different possibilities without doing the measurement and check which one of the conditions are the best that you like to try and you like to measure them. As I mentioned, we're gonna talk about the cell and stack modeling, and we have different levels of the modeling. We can start from very small scale, nano scale, then cell scale, stack scale, and system level scale. And today we're just gonna talk about cell and stack. So now we want to see what's the cell and stack that we are talking a lot about. In reality, cells looks like this. They can be ceramic supported, they can be metal supported, and they can be in different shapes and size. So if we cut the cells, the cross section of the cell looks like this. It's a very thin layered structure, and we have different materials and layers. So in here you can see we have an anode supported layer, anode supported cell, and different materials can be used in different cells. This is one example for the cells that we produce in the DTU Energy. But what is a stack? So if we want to really produce high scale energy, or we want to produce a lot of hydrogen at the same time, one single cell is not enough for us. So we should gather a lot of cells together, which we call a stack. So in here you can see how we scale up and stack these cells together to have a large system. Every single cell, we have a delta V, and we also have different parts for each scale, such as interconnectors, compression plates, sealing, very different parts that also make it a bit challenging to scale up and make a stack. In this picture, you can see two commercial SOEC stacks from Elcogen and from Topsoe in Denmark. After understanding what's the cell and the stacks for solid oxide electrolyzer cell, we want to talk about cell modeling and afterwards about the stack modeling. So what are the reactions in the SOEC cell and how to model it? We have two reactions that we call cathodic reaction, which we call reduction reaction, and anodic, which we call oxidation. And the oral reaction of these two reactions is the electrolyzing of the steam or water, which produces hydrogen and oxygen. And this plot shows the energy demand for water electrolyzer. So as you can see in here, we have a very huge reduction in the boiling point of the water, which is due to this energy that we need for evaporating of the water. The electrical energy that we need is calculated by the Gibbs energy difference. So alkaline and PEM electrolyzer, which we call low temperature, usually works with the water. So their temperature is usually less than 100 Celsius, but for the SOECs, they are operating at higher temperature. And as you can see, there's a benefit in the electrical energy demand for SOEC. And by increasing the temperature, this electrical energy demand reduces. So this technology also needs a lot of heat energy demand, and I could say that the best place to use this kind of technology is where we have some waste heat energy sources, such as, for example, ammonia production and other technologies that we have a lot of waste heat, and we can couple this technology with. There are a lot of books and articles that explain how to derive the equations for the cell modeling, and one of the most important things for the modeling is open circuit voltage or Nair's potential, which is the lowest potential that you see in a cell when you don't have any current. As it comes from its name, it's open circuit voltage. And we don't have any hydrogen production because we don't have any power and current density. So the equation looks like this, but operating voltage is usually higher because when we have current, we have different phenomena. We have some resistance for the electricity, some resistance for the mass transport and other species. So we have different over potentials that you can see in here. They will add up to the OCV. For example, we have ohmic over potentials, we have concentration over potentials, and we have activation over potentials. For each one of them, we have different equations that we can use. For example, bottle warmer for the current density distribution. Then we have different equations how to calculate the concentration over potential, ohmic over potential, and activation over potential. You can write and solve this equation in different softwares, for example, COMSOL, ANSYS Fluent, and MATLAB. But for sure, for the more complicated and 3D kind of modeling and multiphysics modeling, it's really hard to write everything and solve it in the MATLAB. So it's better to use commercial softwares like COMSOL. As you can see, all of these equations are related to some parameters such as temperature, species distribution. So it's important to really understand your problem and approach with a correct solution. We have different levels of the modeling, which I start from the most easiest one and go to the most complicated one. As I mentioned before, we have different parameters in the cell that will affect the performance, like temperature, species, current density, and we want to see how to solve them. So this is the setup that we have for the cell testing. The most simple modeling approach is the 0D. In this model, we consider that there is no variation alongside the cell or in anything. So we just treat it as a single point, which has a one temperature, one species distribution. So a bit more complicated one, which we call the half-D model, is when we consider that we have a difference between inlet and outlet, and we solve the equations at the average values of the inlet and outlet. This approach can be considered when the distribution are linear. The next step is to consider it as a one-dimensional. So we think that we have variation alongside the cell when we come from inlet to outlet. We have change in the temperature in the species, and we consider those variation. And this is important for a lot of applications because we have usually variation alongside the cell. The next one is two-dimensional, when we have variation alongside the cell and in the height of the cell. As you can see in here, it's not really uniform in the height of the cell. And we can use it for doing more accurate and also less computational costly models than the 3D ones. And the last one and the most complicated one, which we usually don't use it, but sometimes we really want to understand everything that's happening inside the cell. If we want to really model our setup that we have in the lab, considering the heat transfer, all of the flows, all of the channels, we use this kind of modeling, which is a bit time-consuming. There are also some advanced modeling, like EIS modeling, that we can use. Here is an example of one of the papers that we have in DTU Energy and the model that we have developed in DTU Energy. So what are the advantages of this kind of modeling is that it can help understanding the degradation. For example, nickel migration is one of the challenging degradation phenomena in this kind of technology, that we can understand it and try to mitigate this kind of degradation. As I mentioned, we can use this method to find out some ways to reduce this degradation, and it can be used also for checking the health of the cell and the stack. So during the operation of the stack, we have a reduction of the voltage, and we have a degradation that by this kind of modeling we can understand why it's happening and how to, for example, stop a stack from operation. So the next thing that I want to talk about is stack modeling. So the first question is that is stack modeling more challenging than the cell modeling? And the answer is yes. So besides the cell layers, as I previously showed, there are also different several metallic and sealing levels that we should consider if we want to have a comprehensive model. There are variations in the height of the stack, but in the cell maybe we don't have it always. We should consider thermal stresses and cracking inside the stack, because if we have any crack and if we have mixing of the oxygen and hydrogen, it will kill the stack. So we should check the materials and mechanical stresses. We should understand the flow distribution and how to put the manifold to have the most uniform flow distribution. We also have the scale and computational resource problems, because we have different layers to solve and it's really time consuming. So in here I brought some examples how complicated it could be if we want to solve the whole stack. For example, you can see a Julish stack that they simulated in a ANSYS, and on a supercomputer on a cluster it takes 18 hours to run single steady state simulation. It's the same for different softwares and different problems, and it takes maybe 40 hours or even longer if we want really to solve all of these layered problems, because we need computational meshes for all of these layers, and some of them are very thin. We need to have a lot of computational power to solve this. So how to tackle this problem and how to solve this problem? We developed a homogenization approach here in DTU by Professor Henrik Lund Fransen and Maria Navasa. And it's really work well. So how it works, in here you can see different layers, a schematic of different layers that we have, the channels, the cell, and interconnect and other parts. So as you can see, interconnect has a very wavy shape, and if you really want to mesh this complicated shape, it needs a lot of computational power. So one level of the homogenization is the partial homogenization, that we consider these channels as a porous media, and we consider some permeability to simulate and replicate the same flow that we have inside the channels. And then we solve the layers of the cell. But here in DTU we go beyond this, and we consider the whole stack as a homogenized porous media, which reduces the computational power and the number of meshes considerably. How to make this model? We can implement different physics that we have inside the stack in COMSOL multiphysics software. Add all of the physics that we have, such as mass transport, momentum transport, energy, ion transport, charge, and heat transport. And in here you can see an example of the stack with different manifolds, air manifolds, fuel manifolds, and different things that we have inside the stack. And in this example we solved half of it, because there's a symmetry between the left and right, and to reduce the computational power, we solved only half of it. So the next question, how to obtain information about local parameters from this homogenized model, because sometimes we really need to know the local problems that we have, such as cracking and thermal stresses and other things. So after solving this homogenized model, we have the distribution of different parameters, such as temperature, species, and other things. And if we are interested in solving very specific location, we know the temperature and other things in that location. So by having this information, we can translate our model to a more detailed model and get the information that we need. For example, in here you can see how we can simulate and calculate the thermal stress in very small corner of the stack that we are interested in, to see is it a problematic one, or does it lead to any cracking or not. So how efficient is this approach? So this approach is used for simulating of different commercial stacks. As you can see in here, we use this already for the Elcogen stack from Finland, for Solidera stack from Italy, and also for the Sunfire stack from Germany. And we validated our model based on the experimental data that we have received from this company. So we can consider all of the physics in this model. It's 100 times faster than the conventional models that I mentioned. So instead of 14 hours, you can solve one simulation maybe in 4 to 5 minutes. We can simulate turbulence in different parts, like manifolds that we have. We can simulate the thermomechanical stresses, and we can also simulate the degradation and lifetime of the stack in a very short time. Thank you for your attention.